Episode 2 of Survivor Season 47 just dropped. And just like I did last week, I'm going to be ranking each player on how I feel they have potential to win the game, or how far I think they can make it, or like where they stand right now. I take all of that and kind of rank them according to those. So the player voted out this episode was TK Foster. Um, Felt like this was pretty easy to understand why he was a jerk to pretty much his entire tribe but Kyle. Even his alliance member Tiana, who he needed her number, and she was the one who ultimately flipped against him because of the attitude. Now, he had the advantage because I think players like TK make it to the merge very often because they're just so strong in challenges, and you just want to keep those players around so you don't have to go back to tribal over and over and over again. But TK screwed himself. He shot himself in the foot by not being able to shut up. He thought he was a leader. He was very cocky, and I think his boot was well deserved and pretty obvious in my opinion. Sue was the other option. I didn't really think it was. I really didn't think it was going to be her. I really felt like it was going to be TK at the start of Tribal Council, and I was right. So last right now I have Saul, mainly because I feel like he's going to be the first one out of Red. You know, Rome is completely safe and everybody knows that, so Rome's not going to be the first one out. Nobody has talked about working with Saul at all. I like him. I think if people worked with him, he could go far, but just nobody's working with him, and he's not. He's either not understanding that, or he's not. He's just not good at the social aspect of the game. But we don't really know because we're not getting a lot of Saul attention right now, so it's kind of hard to tell where he's going wrong. But right now I see that nobody wants to work with him, and he's not getting a lot of attention through the edit, which usually means that that person's not going far. So that's why I have Saul last. Next I have Rome. Rome is somebody I had last, but he's not going at the next tribal council, and everybody on the tribe knows that, or is going to know that, because that information is already with Keyshawn and Teeny, and Asia's going to know, Genevieve is probably going to know, and then somehow Saul's going to know, and even if he doesn't, it doesn't matter. Rome is not going to make it far. Everybody hates him on his tribe. There was a whole montage of everybody just trashing on him, saying they want him gone right now because he's just annoying and he's cocky, and nobody wants him around, and he's untrustworthy as well because he was being sneaky and obvious about being sneaky. I don't think he's going to make it far. He's a pretty big character on the show, but I don't see him making it to the merge at least. So yeah, Rome is not somebody I'm high on at all. Next we have Andy. Now, when I made this list, I was sure I was just gonna keep him dead last, like he was last episode. But he did a little bit, like he was shown in a positive light this episode as kind of recovering from his mental breakdown or whatever. I don't even know what happened, but like and like we've seen, Sam is now willing to play his idol for Andy, and I feel like that's more of a Sam strategic move because he doesn't want to be the only guy he doesn't want to have 3 girls and 1 guy because that can easily be flipped against him. I think that's the true intentions of that. But yeah, so I'm not going to give Andy the credit for Sam thinking about playing the idol on him. But he was doing better socially. He's still, like, I still think he's not going far. I think this idol thing happens. I think Sam's going to end up doing it. And I think Andy is going to stay for another round, and then somebody else is going to go home. I don't know who that's going to be. But Andy is not, I don't think, going to make it to the merge. And if he does, he might be able to just cruise his way to the end as like an Owen type player. But that's like his best case scenario because he's not winning. There's no chance he wins. So I don't know. I have him pretty low. I hope he goes soon. I still am not entertained at all. So hopefully he's gone soon. That's just my opinion though. Yeah, I have him pretty low though. Next I have Genevieve. I don't really know much about Genevieve, but it seems like she has relationships with everybody on her tribe, and I don't think she would be the first or second option to go. I think Sol and Yi would go over her. But we just haven't seen a lot, so it's hard to put her high because if the edit's not showing us a lot, she's not super important. They're going to show us the important characters. So I have her above a large chunk of people already, even though she's had, I believe, 2 confessionals all season. And I believe just 0 this last episode. Yeah, so it's hard to have her higher than this, but it doesn't seem like she's in a bad spot right now in her tribe, and I don't think she's going to go in the next 2 tribal councils unless she is the choice over Sol, which I could see if that's like maybe next episode and they're so early into the game where they want to keep strength, which Sol is very strong. He just got brute strength, and that can be helpful. And then I could see Genevieve getting out, and then I can see that happening because Rome can't get out in the first tribal. So I could see that happening, but I do think right now she's in a decent spot, but I don't see her going far. Caroline, she got a better for me. I know I only put her 2 spots higher, but she's in a good spot because she's in the majority now. I just think she's the 4th one out. I think Gabe is kind of the master of that little alliance there, and I think he chooses Tiana and Sue both over Caroline. I think she's the 4th on that. And I don't know. She's in a good spot right now. She's in the majority in her tribe. I don't know. I feel like a tribe swap will happen, and maybe that's why she's not being shown as much. I could see her making the merge, but I really don't think she's a winner. I haven't. There's been nobody thus far that I think has any potential to win the game, and Caroline's one of those people. She could make it pretty far. She could, but she has no winner potential, and I think she's going to be on the bottom of every decision. I don't think she's going to have any authority. I don't think she's going to be able to make any decisions in this game. I think everybody is not going to respect her opinion as much, just because I think she kind of has a lack of social awareness, at least for the game of Survivor. Annika, I think Annika is outside of Andy, I think she is on the bottom of Yellow, and if Sam does do the idol, I think Annika is the one to go. We saw when Sam found the idol, he was with Annika, but even they were both kind of going at each other, so they don't trust each other, because behind each other's backs, they were talking like they were upset that they found it together, or especially Sam. And then Annika was like, I need to go tell somebody else because I can't trust Sam. And Sam was like, I can't trust Annika with this information now. And that was just immediately. And so there's just such a lack of trust within that so-called alliance that I think this idol play does happen, and I think Andy does go further than Annika. But if that doesn't happen, I like Annika better as a player. I think she's a far better player than Andy, but she could be the victim of Sam, who I do have pretty high. I think Sam is a good player. But that's why I have her here, is because of that possibility that I think she could be a boot even in the next episode or very soon. But I think she is a good enough player to make it decently far. Next up we have Sue. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Sue. I dropped her by 5 spots because I just feel like she really has a lack of authority, or at least way more than I had thought last week. Um, I especially pre-merge, I really liked Sue because in everybody's interviews they say this old lady, I want to work with her. I want to get to know her. It seemed like she's gonna make it very far, but she's already being looked at by, she's being targeted by the opposite alliance, and even her own alliance is calling her out in confessionals about how weak she is, and she's, like TK said, doesn't bring anything to the table for the tribe. But she is a number, which is most of the time most important. But this early in the game, Sue is going to bring her tribe down. But I also don't think she can win, because I think she loses to anybody in the end just because she is an older person. And I think that's just the way Survivor is. So I have her 10th. I think she can make it to the final 3 even, but I don't think she's making it. I don't think she can win. I don't think she has winner potential at all, or any authority. I don't think she's going to make any decisions or lead any votes this season. Next up, we have Kyle Ostwald. I really like Kyle. It seems like he's on the very bottom, and I put 2 people that are not on the bottom below him on his tribe, because he was the only person left out of the TK vote that's remaining. And it seems like Tiana is very willing to keep him around. I think she will try to fight to keep Kyle in over like somebody like Sue and somebody like Caroline. I think if he gets to the merge, he can kind of slip through because he's not a huge social threat, but he does have the strategic chops for the game, and he is definitely a final 3 threat because I think he would be able to convince a jury, and because like he's just a very nice guy, and he's like, I'm just doing this for my family. He just has a great story, and I think that can win you $1 million if you get that far. Question is, can he get that far? We'll see. It's possible, but he's not in the best spot currently, but I think he does have winner potential for sure. I think Kyle could win. He's just not in the best spot currently. Rachel. She's around the same for me. I know I moved her up 2, but that's just kind of everybody moving around her, and her opinion not really changing too much in my head. I do think Sam is kind of the ringleader. I think he chooses who goes in that tribe, especially next tribal, because he's the one with the idol, and he has Sierra locked in, and Andy too. So he has the majority and an idol. Whatever he says goes. And I don't think it's Rachel. I think Rachel can make it very far, and I think Sam likes Rachel, and I think she can be in with the majority, like, throughout the merge. I think if that 4 or that 5 even with Annika doesn't lose, like they went out until the merge or the tribe swap or whatever, I think they can maintain being a powerhouse. And I think she's kind of not on the bottom of the pecking order on her tribe. I think Andy goes before her, and I think Annika goes before her. So that's why I have her this high. I don't know. She could get lower next week, but we'll see. She hasn't done anything wrong in my opinion. So I don't think I can really blame her or move her down because everything she's done has been average. So I'm going to keep her kind of towards the middle of the pack. Next up, we have Sierra, who drops from 3 to 7. I had her pretty high because I thought Sam really stood out to me in this episode. I know I mentioned him, and we haven't even gotten to him yet. But she is attached to him. She even told Sam that, she would go against her best interests for his best interests in playing the idol for Andy. Sorry. And I I don't think that's smart because I think you should always fight to have the vote go the way you want it because that's how you play the game. If you just let somebody else choose the vote for you, you're you're that's not reliable. That's not a reliable way to get through the game. So that's why I dropped her 4 spots. I think she is going to make it far. And I think she could win the game. But I think there's a lot of threats around her in her alliance to where she's going to be looked at as kind of, one of the side characters to a majority alliance. I could see that being the case. So I think she's going to make it far, but I think her winner potential kind of dropped a little for me because I think she's just so willing to be a sidekick, and that's not going to win you the game, especially in season 47. But I do think she will make it pretty far. Next up, we have Keyshawn, and he went up a lot. He's not going to be targeted for a long time. There's 3 very, very easy targets in front of him, and Teeny, who I have pretty high on my list now, wants him in on everything. So to be the number 1 to a very good social and strategic player in Teeny is very valuable, and I think he's going to go very far with her and with Asia, and I think those 3 together are going to be maybe like the purple 3. Sorry, I'm really bad with tribe names, like remembering tribe names. But with Carson, Jam Jam, and Carolyn, I think they could really navigate the game kind of like they did and kind of just flip back and forth and just maintain a big 3. And I think Keyshawn can be a final jury threat. I think he can win the game if it comes down to that. I think he's a very likable guy. I think he's got good strategic ability, and he can make it very far, and he can win $1 million. So I think that's true. But he's in an incredible spot right now to where he's not going anytime soon. So I have him pretty high. There's no reason to knock his game for anything. The reason he's at 6 is just because there's 5 other players that I think have impressed me more. But Keyshawn hasn't done anything wrong. I think he is definitely going to make it pretty far. Next up, we have Gabe. And Gabe is somebody I really thought about putting a little higher, sorry. I even debated putting him at 2. This episode was very strategically impressive for Gabe. And even last episode too, he's been very strategically impressive. But I think he's so aggressive to where I don't think it can last long. I don't think if you're this aggressive, it's not going to last come the merge or even a tribe swap. Which I have a feeling there's going to be a tribe swap this season. I don't know why, but I just have a small feeling. Or maybe it's just because I hope there's a tribe swap because I enjoy a tribe swap. But I think he's going to maintain on the top until either a tribe swap or a merge. But come then, I think he's a threat because he's so aggressive and he's not a good actor. I don't think he is a good actor, but he's not good at being super friendly, and that's something that matters in the game. I know it's kind of weird to say that, but it is something that matters a lot. And his attitude just comes across as I'm scheming something. And everybody's always scheming something in the game, but his face and his attitude just comes across as that. If you understand what I'm saying. Sorry. But I think Gabe thus far has been strategically very perfect. He was able to help Tiana flip over with the help of Sue and the help of Caroline. I think everybody helped Tiana flip over, even TK. Kind of shot himself in the foot. He did that himself. But I think Gabe really helped lock in Tiana to that majority. And I thought his idol play was very impressive too. Um, I I was very confused at first because I was like, you have it for two more tribals after this, and you know that Sue is the target for the opposition. He knew that for a fact that Sue was the target because he was in on the other alliance. Like he played both sides to perfection, to absolute perfection thus far. He's played both sides perfect. And I'm really impressed by that. So I have him pretty high, but I feel like he could be an earlier boot than my ranking says because he could be such an early target because he's so aggressive, and I think his game is very all out there. Um, and I think he is gonna draw a lot of attention come a merge or a tribe swap for sure. But his idle play really was smart because it ensured that he was safe in case of a rock draw because a rock draw was something that was a real possibility in this episode. I know it's crazy to say in episode 2 we could get a rock draw, but there was a time where it was looking like Tiana, TK, and Kyle were all locked, and Gabe, Sue, and Caroline were all locked. So it really seemed like there was going to be a rock draw, and I know you're saying why don't you just play it for Sue because that kind of guarantees it goes in your way. But I don't know. I still question that because why didn't he just play it for Sue when he knew that was the target? But playing it for himself just in like you want to ensure that you're safe. That's the most important. That your number one priority is just make sure you're safe as possible, and that's what he did. So I can't blame him for that at all. The vote went his way because I feel like it was pretty obvious TK was going home, and I feel like everybody knew that on Gabe and Sue and Caroline and Tiana's part of things. Um, yeah, so that's why I have him 5. Very impressive thus far. I just feel like it's a crash and burn, waiting to happen. 4, I have Asia. She was my number 1 last episode, but I don't know. I don't think she's strategically in charge. I think she's a social beast like a Kinsey, which is why I think she could. Which is why I mainly had her number 1 because she kind of reminds me of a Kinsey type player. And Kinsey obviously is the latest winner, so if you see somebody that kind of reminds you of the latest winner, you're gonna kind of predict that they could win, and she could for sure. That's why like anybody in the top 5 or 6 like could easily win. Not easily, but like easily, you would put them in the they have a chance category of winners. But Asia is definitely in the majority. She's very tight with Teeny, and Teeny's very tight with Keyshawn, and I'm sure that's going to be a big 3 this season. Pay attention for that 3 because I think they're going to run a lot of stuff pretty late in the game as well, and they have a lot of numbers to spare. Like they haven't been at tribal. They have Rome, who they went out. Saul can stay with them, but he's not going to. And Genevieve, I think, is going to be a pretty early boot. So I think that 3 is going to make it pretty far and run a lot and run a lot of the game. And I think Asia is more of a final boss type character, or like kind of like a 5th or 6th place, kind of like a big threat, and everybody knows that, but it doesn't seem like they can get her out thus far, and then she gets blindsided, or some kind of scenario like we've seen in the past like that. I think that's kind of what I can see happening with Asia. But yeah, she's definitely a potential winner in my opinion. So anybody in the top 4 is really, you can really just mismatch them however you feel. 3, I have Teeny. Big jump up 6 positions. Teeny she's getting kind of a villain vibe, like a villain edit. It almost seems anytime she's in like focus, like she's the one talking. It's kind of like an ominous music starts playing. I don't know if that's because she's the villain of the season or what, but I think she is very good socially, very good strategically. She's in a great spot. She knows where the idol is. I don't think she gets voted out anytime soon. I think she's definitely a merge player, and I think she makes it far. I think she could win, but I think she can come. I think she might come off as too big of a threat too early, and might not be able to make it far enough. But I feel like if she makes it to final three, she's going to be incredible at explaining her game, and she she very well could probably beat anybody in a final three this season because I think she's that good at just explaining anything. So, but I have her three. Two, I have Sam. He just has a chokehold around his alliance, and I think Sam might be the only player that I have in the same spot as last week. I think everybody moved around except for Sam. He just has a chokehold on his alliance, on his whole tribe even. He chose the John boot, and everybody went along with it. He has kind of just been leading them through challenges. He led them to first place. He's a great leader, I believe, and I don't think he's gonna get out before the merge. I think he makes it very far into the merge, and I don't think he's gonna get targeted until pretty late. Um, he's so tight with everybody in his tribe, and that's what's so good about him, because I think he's gonna be so easily build. I think he's gonna easily build relationships with everybody he comes in contact with in the game, and that's what wins Survivor is building relationships and being a great social player. That's what wins you the game. That's what wins $1,000,000. And I think Sam is that. I think he is most importantly a very good social player. So that's why I have him too. He wins in a lot of scenarios. It's only second episode, so you can't really say stuff like that. But I think if he makes it to the end, he's got the social chops to kind of explain his game, like very similar to Teeny. I'd like to see them two battle in the final three. I think that'd be very entertaining. But I think he's playing a perfect game, and he's overplaying a little bit. I think he's weighing every option and overthinking every option a little bit. I think he could be playing a little too hard right now, which might be a little red flag, but he's really dominating thus far, and you can't put him any lower because of what you think could happen. And first I have Tiana. Now, I didn't really know what to think about Tiana last week because we didn't really get a lot of screen time for her. We got a lot of on blue was a lot of Gabe because he was the one kind of with the advantages, and same with Rome on red. They were kind of like the big, screen hogs because of the advantages. And then TK and Asia because of the journey to get the tribe supplies, of course. So we didn't really see a lot of Tiana, but I know she's a great player, so I had her fourth last week. But I was willing to move her up a lot and down a lot because I just didn't know. But this episode really convinced me that she's going to make it far because, like everybody wants to work with her. She just draws in everybody to want to work with her, and I think she's great at working with everybody. I think she can just make her way to the end pretty, stealthily. I think she can make it far without becoming a target, and I think that's very important in this game. She has amazing social chops, and she's great. She's great in challenges, too. I really don't think there's any flaw with Tiana, and I think I really think she wins the game. I don't know. Something's just telling me Tiana's the winner. So from my second week prediction, Tiana wins the game. I really believe that she's winning the game. It really feels that way. And I wasn't super high on her coming in. And I know I say third, but a lot of people had her first. I saw a lot of first. It was her and Andy all day. But I really do believe Tiana has what it takes to win. I think she made the right decision by going with Gabe and Sue and them because she's at the top of the pecking order. I feel like she can run that, even with Gabe being there. So, yeah, that's the rankings. Let me know if you have any thoughts, anybody you'd have higher than I do, or anybody you've had lower than I do, and let me hear your winner predictions also. Yeah, and until next week.